I know, late video. Two reasons. My nephew was here, so I wanted to make the most of my time with him. And secondly, my camera tripod was actually commandeered by him. So even if I wanted to make a video, I simply couldn't. And now he's gone back to his home, and I miss him a lot. But after having not made an episode in a while, it just made me realize how closely my happiness is tied to making videos for you guys. I feel alive, I feel much more creative and much more productive, and I actually feel that I'm contributing in a meaningful way. Speaking of contributing, I haven't really talked about IELTS reading module much in my IELTS episodes because truthfully I didn't have a lot to say about it until yesterday when I attempted 2 readings on my own, one academic and one general. So now I have 5 IELTS reading tips for you all, and I hope that these 5 tips help you out in your IELTS reading attempts. Here we go. So the first advice that I have for you is read the questions first. Many students, actually most students, when they first start out with their coaching, they tend to read the passage first. Let the passage remain unseen. You have to look at the questions first. Read one question, understand it completely, and then read the next question as well. Just have a quick glance at it. So now you know 2 things that you have to look for in the passage. And now look for the answers to these questions. If you don't even read the questions first and dive straight into the passage, you don't even know what you're looking for. Always remember, the motive of your IELTS reading attempt is answering questions, not gaining any knowledge from the passage. So always read the questions first so that you know what you're looking for and you don't end up wasting your precious time. Speaking of wasting time, don't spend a lot of time on a single question if you cannot find the answer to it. Just let it go. For now, shift your focus on the next questions because chances are when you're finding the answers to the next questions, you will find the answers to the questions that you've left behind as well. But even if you don't panic. Don't let the other questions suffer because of one tricky question. Oh, and one more thing. When you skip a question, make sure you put a little sign or a hyphen in the answer box of that question in your answer sheet so that you can keep track of the questions you've missed. If you don't do that, suppose you cannot find the answer to question number 14 and you don't put any hyphen or any sign in the answer box of that question and you start looking for answer 15. And when you find the answer 15, you write the answer 15 in the box 14. And then you write the answer 16 in box 15 and answer 17 in box 16 and so on until you finally realize the blunder that you've made and you start scratching your head and start erasing all the answers and start verifying all the previous answers as well. You know how I know this? I made the exact same mistake in my final IELTS exam, but thankfully I realized it soon enough. You know how in life when you don't really live in the moment and you focus too much on the future, you tend to get anxious. The same is true for IELTS reading as well. IELTS candidates get more panicked during reading as opposed to listening because all you have to do in listening is listen and answer the questions. And you also get some extra time to transfer your final answers on the answer sheet. But in reading, there is no extra time to transfer the answers. You have to write the answers in the final answer sheet as you keep on finding them. So you start panicking. Maybe because you think you're too slow and you won't be able to finish on time, and that big ass clock on the wall of the examination hall, it further adds to the tension. The end result? Panic. You need to calm down, especially if you're an academic candidate. It's most likely that your band score requirement in reading is no more than 6.5 bands, which means that you have to get 27 out of 40 questions correct. Suppose you calm down and you take your time. The worst that would happen is that out of 47 questions, you may miss 2 or 3 questions. It's not ideal, but it's better than panicking. But you'll have attempted at least 37 questions with full concentration and dedication. When you've given your best attempt, even out of those 37 questions, you'll have a buffer of 10 wrong answers. Again, not ideal, but better than panicking. But your calmness will help you read better and focus better, and as a result, you'll get way more than 27 answers right. The story is a little different for general IELTS candidates because their band score requirement usually hovers around 7 bands, and in order to get 7 bands, they have to get 34 correct answers. But general readings are simply much more easier as compared to academic readings. You'll find the answers of the first 3 passages with relatively much more ease. So I'd like to quote what my friend Chris Martin has always said: don't panic. When it comes to matching the headings, match them later. More often than not, you'll see that match the headings questions will be written as the initial questions of any given passage. What you'll most likely do is that you'll read the paragraph number 1 quickly and then go through the list of headings and then pick the most suitable one. And then you do the same for para number 2. And then when you reach para number 3 or 4, you realize that the heading that you've given to para number 1 is actually better suited to para number 3 or para number 4. And then as a result, you start panicking again, and then you feel like you've wasted a lot of time. What I suggest is that skip the match headings, do the other questions of the passage first. Most probably the other questions will be true-false questions or fill in the blanks, and these questions will give you an idea about what information falls under which para. Try to apply this, see if it works for you. And finally, always read the instructions carefully. Actually, this should have been the first tip. Anyway, haste makes waste. So if you hurriedly dive into the questions before even reading the instructions, you're actually digging your own grave. There are two sets of instructions that are the most overlooked in my opinion. The first instruction is the answer can be a word and or a number. Now this means three possibilities. The answer can be a word, for example, March. Number 2, the answer can be a number, for example, 14. And number 3, the answer can be a word and a number, for example, March 14th. And the second instruction that's most commonly overlooked is you may use any letter more than once. Now what happens is that some statements are given as questions and you have to tell which paragraph contains the information of the statements. The information of one statement seems to fall under para C, and then you go further and then the information of another statement seems to fall under para C as well. But you think that this cannot be right because you've already written C as your answer. But what you miss is that in the very beginning they tell you that you can use C more than once. So be careful about the instructions, always. This new transition effect is really sick, isn't it? It's inspired by Ekta Kapoor. In the end, I just want to add that if you want your reading to improve, just read more. Read articles, blogs, books, novels, labels of food items, I don't care as long as you read. It will exercise and train your brain for better comprehension and to make better connections between sentences. Read for a week, put in the hours, and you'll surely feel the difference. And as always, stay inspired and stay relevant. I'll see you all very soon. Bye-bye.